Hi, my name is Cassandra Velasco, and I'm the Director of Children's Programming for the Women's Resource Center to End Domestic Violence. Right now, families in the midst of this pandemic are really struggling with at-home learning with their kids while staying in place. Globally, we're seeing kids showing all sorts of signs of stress and anxiety. I know that we've partnered with schools and local organizations to put out pamphlets for parents to start to identify what some of these stressors could look like in their kids. Maybe you're even beginning to see it in your own kids. Some signs of stress in kids can be stomach aches, headaches, lashing out, difficulty concentrating, withdrawing, changes in appetite, separation anxiety, and more. These signs are really exacerbated in the kids that I work with every day that have been affected by family violence. What we know about kids that have experienced trauma in their past is that when they enter into a situation or perceive kind of an environment to be stressful, that it can activate the limbic part of the brain, which then triggers what we call survival brain. And this sends out an automatic survival message or fight or flight to the nervous system. So basically, these kids are stuck in this moment of reliving their trauma over and over again. Imagine trying to do your homework, trying to eat a peaceful dinner, trying to engage in anyone around you when your body and your mind is telling you that you're preparing for battle. I've seen so many kids that come to our safe house and because of their past traumas suffer from regression, where they forget how to tie their shoes and other things that they knew before coming to the house. Sometimes they'll act out in anger or completely shut down. Sometimes they refuse to play or eat, and they begin to even wet their bed or suffer from nightmares. But after just a small amount of time in the safe house and adjusting to the loving environment there, they begin to register that they are safe. And you see those same kids not only bounce back from those regressions, but also begin to thrive and show empathy and compassion for themselves and others. So yes, trauma and other adverse childhood experiences, such as family violence, can lead to not only these exacerbated signs of stress and anxiety, but can lead to negative behaviors, unhealthy relationships, and now is linked to medical health issues and long-term chronic illness. But we also know that with some love, compassion, and intention, we're able to rewire the brain and really build up resiliency in our kids. All of our children's programs at the Women's Resource Center are aimed at building resiliency in our kids. We want to give them the space to empathetically explore and learn how to cope with their past traumas in a healthy and positive way by giving them tools to identify their triggers, learn how they're feeling in their body and in their minds, and be able to communicate that, as well as promote self-regulation by giving them different calm down strategies and turning them into muscle memory. All of this goes into intervening in that survival brain process. If we can teach our kids to slow down rather than react to the survival brain, then what we're really teaching them is that they have a choice, that they have a choice to be active agents and in control of their lives. And hopefully that choice can lead to healthy relationships, positive behaviors, and a thriving, beautiful, successful life that breaks the cycles of violence rather than perpetuates them. Studies show it takes just one positive relationship with an adult to change a kid's life forever. But we know it takes a community to encourage and cultivate an entire generation to thrive. Please consider joining our community at the Women's Resource Center by giving financially to the children's program. We are dedicated to building resiliency in our kids by teaching them self-regulation, calm down strategies, navigating emotions, mindfulness, empathy, compassion, and other social emotional tools that promote peace education. Thank you.
Thank you all for joining us. My name is Linda Spencer, and I'm the board president for the Women's Resource Center to End Domestic Violence. I'm very excited that we have this virtual event for a number of reasons. One is because beyond our wonderful supporters in Georgia, tonight I'm excited I see supporters that we have from all over the country, from Georgia, Texas, we have people from Florida, South Carolina, Missouri, Michigan, New Jersey, Pennsylvania. California, Illinois, DC, Louisiana, and Ohio. So I'm very excited. Thank you for joining us. Please stick with us. We have a lot of great presentations. And of course, also at the end of the program, we are going to be announcing the winners of our drawing. Before we continue with the program, I would just like to take a minute to thank our very generous corporate sponsors and community supporters. First, I would like to thank our sponsors at the advocate level: Georgia Pacific, Georgia Power, PwC, Southwire, and UPS. At the ally level, we would like to thank the Southern Company. At the supporter level, we would like to thank Troutman Sanders. At the believer level, we'd like to thank those friends and sponsors shown on your screen right now. I certainly don't want to forget the sponsors of our great prizes for our drawing. Total Wine & More has generously donated a wine tasting for 20, and ASW Distillery Tasting Room has donated a 5-flight whiskey tour and tasting. So now it's your turn. I'm excited to tell you, as I think you've seen on your screen by now, that we have a very generous donor who's offered to match up to $20,000 donated tonight. And we've made it very easy for you. There's a number of ways that you can donate. If you registered for the event via BidPal, you can click on the link in your text message to make your gift now or anytime during the program. If you're watching on Facebook, you can click the Donate Now button on your Facebook page. You could always donate via PayPal at paypal.me/WRCDB. The WRC doesn't charge any fees to the clients that we serve, so we rely on generous friends like you to help women and children access these services that they need. Finally, this event will be a lot more fun if you participate. So please continue to chat on Zoom, as I've seen you doing. Post comments on Facebook, and if you're on Facebook, please turn on the watch party feature so your friends can join us as well. Thanks again for being here. And now I'll turn it back over to our Executive Director, Jean Douglas.
So my name is Jean Douglas. I am the Executive Director at the Women's Resource Center to End Domestic Violence. For 34 years now, we've been offering services to battered women and their children. And we do it in a way that's very creative and very collaborative. So thanks to you and all of your support over the years and our collaborations, we've been able to offer several services to women and children who are in need of our services. The Safe House is a program that most of you are probably familiar with. So we have a home where women and children can live with us when they need to escape danger. We offer support groups. We have a 24-hour crisis hotline, supervised visitation, Making Change program, which is our financial education program. We have a legal advocacy program with 4 legal advocates where we assist families, over 2,000 families every year, with temporary protective orders and giving them some guidance on the court process that they need to keep themselves safe. As you can imagine, COVID has changed quite a few things in all of our lives, and that's especially true for the Women's Resource Center. If you've been watching the news and seen in the media, domestic violence has definitely increased during this time. So what that means is that we've had to be even more creative and more collaborative than ever before. So the women who have typically been calling us have to do so by a whole new means. And so we had to come up with a very new approach in working with the women and children that need our services. They're being very careful. They're being very meticulous. And so we've had to adapt our service and use them as a guide and the best way to offer our services. Oftentimes, women are using their services when the person that is abusing them is in the very next room. And sometimes we don't see the women or hear from the women that need our services until things have exacerbated to the point where they've needed to go to the emergency room. And so for all of those reasons, because COVID is here and because COVID is expensive, we need your support now more than ever. Almost a week or so ago, on May 5th, we would have held our Champions for Change luncheon. This year, we were not able to do so because of COVID. The funds we raise from Champions for Change provides essential services that we need now more than ever. So now we need your support more than ever. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce a few of our friends and coworkers that are going to be joining us tonight to talk with you about what this looks like during COVID. You've heard from Cassie, who's doing the most innovative work with our children that we could ever hope or wish for. You're going to hear from Ayana Johnson, our Director of Legal Services. But next up, you're going to hear from April Ross. April Ross was going to be our champion for change this year. So she's joining us to share her work with the Georgia Commission on Family Violence. She's the executive director there. So she will join us first. And then Ayana Johnson, who is over our legal services, will join us next. Stay tuned because there's a lot more to come. From the emergency room, Dr. Grady, and you're going to get to do a tour of our safe house, first time ever. So stay tuned and let's get started. Thanks.
Greetings. I am April Ross, Executive Director for the Georgia Commission on Family Violence. The Commission is a state agency that works with communities and systems across the state to provide leadership in strengthening Georgia's families by working to end domestic violence. At GCFV, we believe that a coordinated community response is the best way to address the problem of family violence. An effective coordinated community response means every segment of the community is involved, including law enforcement, judges, advocates, medical professionals, educators, and even everyday citizens engaged and actively committed to the goal of ending family violence. That's why we're proud in this effort to be partnered with the Women's Resource Center and the tremendous work they are doing to support survivors throughout the DeKalb County community. I'll be frank, the coronavirus hit me like a ton of bricks. From the moment it grabbed headlines and started dominating everything from everyday conversation to airwaves, the significant disruption to lives happened at warp speed. Domestic violence is a challenging fight even in normal times, and it certainly takes no break, especially at a time like this. During this pandemic, there's an acute awareness of the dangers facing victims of domestic violence, which only intensified as we retreated to our homes. While sheltering in place may have helped to prevent the spread of COVID-19, we absolutely recognize that for families experiencing more stress due to lost work, closed schools, few social outlets, and other harsh realities brought on by this illness, the situation unfortunately poses a unique threat to people in abusive relationships. Earlier, I told you about my work with GCFV, but I'm also a survivor. In 2014, I almost lost my life while trying to leave my marriage. I remember feeling terrified as gunshots rained into my vehicle. I firmly believe that no one should ever have to experience that terror. I also know that many victims live under a state of siege constantly with an abusive partner. Our collective goal, especially now, has to be to ensure that people experiencing domestic violence who find themselves in isolation with an abusive partner can still get the support they need wherever they are. The Women's Resource Center has shown tremendous resilience in this time of difficulty and uncertainty, and they have risen to the challenge of finding creative ways to ensure that those in need of help receive it. Together, we are all working to ensure that the needs of victims are not forgotten or diminished. Domestic violence cannot and will not be excused, and victim safety will not be sacrificed because we're facing an unprecedented health crisis. We must spread awareness so anyone who may be experiencing violence knows that help is still ready and waiting. Even with the lifting of shelter-in-place orders, let's keep in mind that the impacts of this virus on families will continue for many months to come. Many victims will continue to have significant needs as they attempt to leave an abusive partner. I know that we can all rise to meet this need, and now more than ever, it's crucial that we stay connected and focused on a coordinated community response to help those who need us the most right now. We're all in this together, and we're all figuring it out day by day. Remember, nobody can do everything, but everybody can do something. To the Women's Resource Center, Thank you for your steadfast commitment and for the service you do in your community now more than ever. To everyone, stay safe, stay healthy, stay strong, and stay united.
Hello, my name is Ayanna Johnson, and I direct the Legal Advocacy Program at the Women's Resource Center. This month marks the 20th year that I have been providing advocacy at our agency. And like all of you, I could have never imagined what it would be like to do the work that we do while sheltering in place during a pandemic. It has been a difficult time for the women that we serve, not being able to meet with us in person. And it's been challenging for our advocates as well, not to be able to have the privilege to walk with our clients through the temporary protective order process in person. Rather, we've been talking with our clients over the phone and helping them file protective orders electronically. We have worked diligently and collaboratively with our community partners, the DeKalb County Magistrate Court, the Office of the DeKalb County Sheriff, the Clerk of Superior Court and staff, to make sure that the system that we created was victim-centered and kept the women that we served at the forefront of our process. What's been especially challenging is oftentimes we're speaking with women over the phone, and their abusive partner is not only in the same residence, but sometimes in the very next room. She's filing this protective order in secret, and we're doing our best to censor ourselves to make sure that we don't alert the other party that she's filing. We hope that you will join us in our effort and consider making a contribution to the Women's Resource Center. It will make a significant difference in the lives of the women and children that we serve. Thank you for listening, and thank you for supporting the work of the Women's Resource Center.
So you've heard from Ayanna, our Director of Legal Services. She works day by day with 3 other legal advocates to provide the extraordinary legal services that we do each and every single day. And you've also heard from April Ross, who will be our honoree next year. So now you will hear from a brand new friend. His name is Dr. Michael Clearly, who's an emergency room doctor at Grady Hospital. Michael reached out, which tells us a lot about him, that he's a doctor that took time to send an email and contact the Women's Resource Center and says, hey, we're doing COVID. We have more domestic violence. We need your help. He called, we responded, and he is going to talk about our connection and our new relationship, which we're really grateful to have with Grady for all that they're doing for us. And then you will hear from Barbara Gibson, our Director of Safe House Services, and join us on a tour of our home. See you in a minute.
Hi, my name is Michael Clary. I am an emergency medicine physician at Grady Hospital and assistant professor of emergency medicine with Emory University School of Medicine. I'd like to share with you today the ways that the Women's Resource Center to End Domestic Violence has been instrumental in taking care of some of our patients who have suffered from injuries of domestic violence. Unfortunately, during this COVID-19 pandemic, in the emergency department, we are seeing an increase in patients being injured by domestic violence, and at the same time, a reduction in the capacity across the city to provide safe shelter. When I approached the Women's Resource Center, we were faced with oftentimes finding that at the end of a treatment plan, we had no safe destination for patients. When we had this discussion, the Women's Resource Center stepped up almost immediately to take on that responsibility to meet the needs of patients who are suffering from or at risk of domestic violence and help them find a safe plan, whether that is in a local shelter resource, through emergency shelter in a hotel, or even in transportation to a safe family environment outside of the state. We've seen this already have an important impact for patients that we're treating in the ED within the last month. I think it's important to know how swiftly and decisively this organization recognized the need and formed a plan that has been carried out in order to meet a very important need, in order to achieve safety for patients who otherwise had no other options. It's something that is incredibly moving to me as a ER doctor, and something I applaud. I really hope that you will consider supporting the Women's Resource Center financially and in raising support as best you can, because our patients will continue to benefit from their services even through the end of the pandemic and onward. Thank you.
Hello, this is Barbara Gibson with the Women's Resource Center, where I'm the Safe House Director. Thank you so much for joining us for Cheers for Champions. We're really glad that you're with us this evening. So how are we doing at the Safe House? We essentially have a group of strangers who've come together over these many weeks to build a community of families. And this community, like we all are, is doing the best they can to manage their anxiety day by day. Of course, some days are better than others, but I think that's to be expected. Families are doing the best they can. They are also nurturing their deep hope for how things will be as we forge our new normal. Mostly they're wishing that as we forge the new normal, that they'll be able to do the things we all hope for, to earn enough income to support their families, to be safe and stable, and to be able to go out each day and return home to enjoy the simple pleasures of being together with family in a safe place. In the meantime, families are doing things like cooking, they're sharing lots of recipes, they are doing yoga and dancing, chasing children around, tearing their hair out over homework, and doing some writing, some crafting, and a little bit of gardening. We also are answering our crisis line 24 hours a day like we always do, except that it's different in that we are answering from our homes. And we know too that survivors are calling from their homes, and as they're sheltering in place, the challenge is being able to talk with us without interruption because they're sheltering with their abusers. And so what we're finding is that we're having to be really creative around having enough space and time to really understand the needs of the callers. So that might take a couple of calls over a period of time, either giving or receiving those calls. And it might also require using technology. We've had to exchange cell phone numbers with callers and use the chat feature on our phone or use email to communicate. The challenge as well is that as programs really work to balance the needs of their current participants with the needs of people who are seeking shelter, fleeing abusive homes, that we really have to be creative, because as programs shelter in place, as programs practice social distancing where families do not share rooms, that often means that capacity is reduced. And so as capacity is reduced, we're really thinking about new ways that we can help families who are fleeing domestic violence get to safe places that are not necessarily shelter spaces. And so part of that means exploring options around transportation. So if a caller has friends or family in another part of the state, or friends or family in another part of the country, that we can provide transportation to help them get there, either in the form of gas money or assistance with bus tickets. We're also trying to do some assistance with food and utilities so that when they do find refuge with a friend or a family member, it doesn't present an undue burden on that family, as many people are struggling financially at this time. So maybe to assist with food, extra food, so that the families can all have enough, or utilities, so that if the bill is increased, it doesn't again present an undue burden. But we know too that many victims are not calling, they're not reaching out. They're living with the tremendous fear of being afraid of someone that they are partnering with or married to. But in many cases, it's a fear that is known. It's one that they recognize and have had practice navigating around. And COVID-19, the pandemic, is quite different in that there's so much that's uncertain, so much that we don't know about. There's so much fear. And many families, many survivors are making the false choice of remaining in homes where they are terrified because they're not sure what they can expect if they leave their homes. So if you are a survivor of domestic violence, or you know someone who is, please know that you don't have to figure this out alone, that you have a community that stands with you. Our crisis line is available 24 hours a day. Please give us a call. And know that we are supported by a community of supporters who cares about your safety. Thanks so much for joining us this evening. Cheers.
So thank you for joining us on the tour of our home. You know, when we built our home over 15 years ago, it was really important to us to create a home that felt like a home, not like an institution, but a space where women could bring their children and heal. The kind of home that each and every single one of you would want to come to if you had to flee domestic violence and take care of your children. I think we've done that very well. And we've done that, again, creatively and collaboratively, especially with the women who come as our guests and live in our home. They tell us each and every single day how to do it better. And we try each and every single day to meet what they offer us in ways to do it better. So I want to thank the women who trust us with their lives and with their children's lives and bring them to the safe house. So as we mentioned earlier, we have $20,000 match. We really are hoping that you will help us meet tonight. Last year, when we sat in a ballroom of 600 people, you all raised your paddles and helped us raise an additional $75,000. So I know $20,000 is absolutely obtainable, and you're going to help us meet that number tonight. As COVID has increased our costs, so have the costs for our services. So we need you now more than ever. And I believe that you're going to show up for us in the same way that you always have over the last 34 years that we've been here. I want to thank our sponsors. We know now is a tough time for everybody. And because you believe in us, you showed up for us again this year in ways that I know was sacrificial on your part, but you believe in the cause and you came. Thank you so much for being here. I want to thank all of our board members who just kind of ride with us. We say, this is tough, this is the way we need to do it. And they jump on board and they come with us every single step of the way. As we were going through, looking at the video, I was looking at the living room with the furniture. I remember after one board meeting, Carlton Rose said, hey, Jean, let's go shopping. And we filled the whole house with new furniture. Zoe Hicks is on the line tonight. Zoe was a crisis line counselor over 25 years ago and couldn't stand the fact that we didn't have room for a woman and her children to go. So she said, Jean, we need to build a new shelter. And that's what we did. So it's people like you that stand with us day by day that allow us to continue the work that we do. I also want to thank our staff, our amazing, incredible staff. Amber Harris, you're a champ. You pulled this off. You did it. I'm glad I'm not in your shoes. I would not have wanted to figure all of this out. You did a great job. And for all our advocates that put your lives, your heart on the line every day to do this work, I can't thank you enough. You all know how I feel about you. You know I love you. I'm so honored to do this work with you each and every day. To Ina Dralick, who has our silent auction every year, it's like stood with us, rolled up her sleeves and helped us figure out how to do this. And there's so many, many more people that I could name. Please know that you have our gratitude. Thanks so much for joining us tonight and for supporting our cause. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for your support. We couldn't be here without you. Good night.